good one.
All right, that is a good one. And where'd that song come from, honey? Carole King, 1970-something. Anyway, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's the theme of our show today. Tuesday's primary elections created some surprises, some not surprises, and we're here to discuss them. This is Down and Dirty, and I'm John Dingfelder. I'm joined by my co-host, Lynn Marvin Dingfelder, our brilliant guests, Shelley Reback and Patrick Montega, who need no introduction.
Hey.
Vic DeMaio will join us in a few minutes. Good morning, Pat.
Morning. Glad to be here.
Exciting week.
It was for the 5 or 6 of us who care about elections. Yeah, it was exciting.
Fewer and fewer, huh? Shelley, how about you? Were you glued to the television set or the radio?
I actually was not. I was following it on my phone, but I wasn't glued to it.
Were you out of town or you were here?
No, I was here. I was just busy doing something else.
Okay.
I was in a rehearsal for a theater production.
Hey.
But I was following along. I certainly had some candidates that I was rooting for.
Me too.
Quietly, and
Vic DeMaio, you had a vested interest in hold on.
It's all right.
Yeah,
it's all right.
I got it. A vested interest in at least one local race, and of course in many others as well. What did you think of Tuesday night?
I thought it had a lot of surprises for me. I think even the race I was most vested in, which was Luis Salazar to replace the West Tampa Town and Country.
Yeah, we'll get to that once.
That was
we'll
heated.
definitely get
that
to
was
that.
a crazy race.
Crazy race. All right, let's start with the big one. Angie Nixon takes off and defeats, in a big surprise, Alex Vindman.
yeah,
Shelley, how about it?
I was thrilled to see.
I think you proposed her or selected her as one of your picks.
Yes, I did. I recommended her.
You recommended her.
I recommended her. She's a true fighter and a Floridian. She has deep ties to this state. She's been all over the state talking to people.
Yeah, she's working it hard.
Yeah, listening to people. And, Vindman, who I really respect and value, he's a hero, really, for what he did to reveal the Ukraine phone call that Trump had that basically kickstarted Trump's first impeachment. Nothing bad to say about Vindman, except he's a terrible campaigner. He
was pretty flat.
He personally was a terrible campaigner, and his campaign itself was terrible.
Very flat. But so much money. Can you believe the money that she beat? That was really impressive.
Let me say something about the money. He has now come out and he is giving a big portion of that money to the Florida Democratic Party.
He had leftover.
Yeah, tons left. He had $7 million left over.
That's crazy.
And
he raised like 13 or something.
16.
16.
Yeah.
Oh, what was he doing, Pat Montego? Was he storing it away for the general?
For the general.
He believed his press releases.
Yeah.
He believed the fact that Washington had decided he was a candidate because he had the ability of small donations from around the country. It is going to be hard to beat Moody without any money. And so Washington bought into the fact that if this guy can raise money, we have a shot here, and maybe it helps the rest of the ticket because maybe we can pay for a ground game. And so everybody really got on board with that. I mean, I endorsed him because I wanted a winner.
Yeah.
I am happy to support Angie Nixon. So
what's your worry?
So I don't really have a worry. I think Moody's going to be tough no matter who it's going to be. When you take a look at the votes, Moody got more votes than both Democrats put together in the primary. And when you look at her votes compared to the winner of the Republican gubernatorial, she was way up there. So she's got this huge amount of votes. She works, so you can't say she's not working.
It's going to be a turnout race. That's the issue. Sure. And that's the reason why I recommended Angie, because nobody was going to turn out for Vindman. They didn't know him. He wasn't a Florida guy.
Wasn't exciting.
He wasn't exciting. He didn't have an exciting platform. His statements about the Israel-Palestine issue were a problem for the base. And, so I felt Angie could turn out the base, and we can't win without that.
The contrast between Moody and Angie couldn't be more crazy and
let's
diverse.
talk about when we first met Angie.
Her passion.
There was a political party.
Right.
She walked in the party. We were kind of surprised to see her.
It was at our house. Yeah,
at your house, right?
And she walked in and she lit up the room.
She did. She was really exciting and energized everybody. And I was thrilled to have her there. First time I'd seen her in person.
But the fact that she was even there is why I think she is going to energize Democratic voters, independent voters, and people disgusted with the whole MAGA regime.
So, Vic, how about
let me talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah, how about the DSA issue?
Yes, the Democratic Socialists of America could be the death knell of the party, because I've had a lot of calls since the election. People that either going to quit.
Maybe it's the rejuvenation of the party. Maybe we need that energy.
But I get it. I get the progressives and the socialists being a driving force.
They're
and
young.
Enthusiasm, right? But the problem we have here, and I have this with the Hispanic caucus, when you mention the word socialista, and it goes right to comunista, and that's what even in West Tampa, walking around the Cacciatories, they call me the comunista because I'm the Democrat. So now you just put a big fat label on the Democrats that we're socialist, and that's a horrible word, especially in the Hispanic community.
I would say I wish that she had taken the position of El Sayed in Michigan, which is that I'm a capitalist, but I believe in regulated capitalism, because what we have now is just not serving working people.
Yeah, but you saw Jolly. Jolly was running away the next day. The very next day, Jolly was running.
And that was a mistake.
Well, to your opinion,
I agree. It is a mistake.
That was a mistake.
The reality is,
we need
that
unity.
we all are going to have to love each other.
Right.
And Democrats have to stop hating other Democrats more than they hate a Republican.
But I'm just being realistic here. I'm not saying that's my
the reality is I'm sure if I went down a list with Nixon and said, what do you believe in, what do I believe in, I bet it's 98% in line.
Okay, well, hey, how about this? How about this?
I agree with you.
What if the conservative or more moderate Democrats show up for Jolly, okay, and the progressives show up for her?
Right.
They're not going to turn around and vote Republican on the next
No, what you could end up with is undervotes. Just people who are skipping a race because they just don't want to get involved in that.
Well,
this is a national debate that the Democratic Party is having right now.
Right, but that would be the fault of Vic DeMaio and people who
I'm not telling you. This is not my opinion.
I'm
just being honest. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you what I hear. Okay, this is not my personal opinion.
Right, but don't you think because you hear those things?
And I could blame Shelley Reback for being a DSA supporter.
Okay, but don't you believe that because you hear those things, it's your responsibility as a Democrat to disabuse people of the notion that that is a scary thing that should drive them away from voting for Angie? Because I certainly feel that a responsibility as an American Jew to talk to some of the Jewish people that I know who say they're not going to vote for Angie because of her position on Israel. I feel a great responsibility.
You know where my complaints came from? The Jewish caucus. The Jewish caucus in Hillsborough County, I had many key members there. They were the first ones to call and express, because there are also some things about her being anti-Semitic and things like that. That's what the DSA, because of the Palestinian issue with
Shelley, go talk to him.
Wait, I have a question for all of you. She's in the middle of a campaign. Right. She's getting some momentum. 2 or 3 weeks before the election, she joins the DSA.
Right. Yeah.
Why?
Timing.
Maybe she felt she was behind. Maybe she felt like she needed to do something. I mean, the problem is there was no polling in this race. For as big as it was, obviously Vindman didn't do a single bit of polling, or he would have realized he needed to run a campaign. And nobody else seemed to do any real polling here. They were all focused on the Republicans, had poll after poll after poll about their gubernatorial race, and there was not a single poll that came out. And so, when you're in a vacuum, you start to do things based on what you feel, what you think.
And the people slapping you on the back saying you're doing great.
I would assume if I was Nixon, I felt I was an underdog because everybody else felt I was an underdog. Right?
I just want to add just a second of levity.
I don't want to jump to
just
another
a second
race.
of levity. I never thought that I would wear a Nixon political shirt.
Bada boom.
That's true.
Skip, where's your drums? Bada boom.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, good one, Lynn.
But I think the point is that there's a contrast between these two women that goes beyond the visuals. She speaks to the energy, it speaks to what they stand for, and hopefully people will listen and it won't just be party lines. Remember, what we need to win are independence. And I think the youth vote. We've turned off the youth vote for a while, and we need to bring them in. And if it takes the DSA to bring them back to the party, then let's embrace them and say, okay, where's the middle? How can we meet in the middle?
Here's a good question, I think, because I'm about to ask it.
Just ask them. It's brilliant.
Will this energize the black voters to come out in the state of Florida for a potential black woman senator?
Well, it did, because Angie got 150,000 votes more than Vindman, and 40,000 of those were in her home county, Duval. Which, there was a very heavy black vote there. But I just want to say one thing, back to what I started to say to Vic earlier. It is our responsibility as Democrats, each and every one of us, to speak to our people, whoever they are. If it's your people, the Latins, if it's my people, the Jews, it's a responsibility that each of us have to make people understand that if you believe in 90% of the platform that Angie is putting forth, that has to be where your vote is. That has to be, because, we're Americans. We're not Israelis. We're not Palestinians. We are Americans, and we are voting for the America that we want.
I think we're going to have some of these young DSA folks from the Tampa Bay area on next week. So we'll hear more about that. All right, let's move on to a no surprise.
One thing before you move on. On the African American issue, I do think that having a African American on the top of the Democratic ticket does help us in not getting some drift over for African Americans voting for a black governor.
Yeah.
Because now he will be attacking her. He will be attacking Democratic Socialists, will be attacking all Democrats as socialists. And so African Americans will have two, blacks at both tickets at the top.
Which one will come first?
And they will take a look, and they will say, one of them's actually talking about our community, and the other person's talking about Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I think it will help, because had there been no African American at the top of our ticket and you had a black at the top of theirs, I think you could have got a little bit of drift.
Right.
Well,
and
should
the
we
problem
talk
with the DSA is, because I'm just being honest and putting it on the table. We have to discuss it, and we got to figure out what to do.
That's why we're here. That's what we do. It's down and dirty.
They were going to attack us as socialists, whether we had a DSA or not.
No.
They were.
I know.
No matter what. And so the reality is that, and when you talk about us talking to our fellow people, the real problem is that we have to have a party that helps us resolve the issue of what socialism is.
Yeah.
The reality is that anybody who comes from Venezuela that thinks free health care was their problem, no, it wasn't. It was authoritarianism.
Yes.
That was their problem. Anybody who comes from Cuba who thinks that access to education was their problem, it isn't. It was authoritarianism. So socialism is a different thing. We have socialism here, a lot of it. We have social security.
We have socialism for corporations, not for people.
We have FDR socialism.
So our problem with Hispanics in Florida is that a lot of them don't understand what their problem was in their home country. That's where they had a problem in their home country, because they made bad votes there.
Yeah. And we need to come together on the definitions of what we're talking about.
We just need to come together. We need to stop fighting with each other. We need to stop being mean to each other. We need to stop splintering, because we weaken ourselves.
Well, Shelley just said something very key. The definitions, because the very next day, Angie was on Good Morning Joe.
Right.
And if you look at the DSA platform, it has to do with, and they asked her point blank on the air, national news, it said, do you believe the DSA platform abolishing the police? They said no.
She said no.
She said no. This is a key point here. So there were several key platforms of the DSA that she actually said no to.
All right, late breaking news here. Boop, boop, boop,
This is good.
Mitch Perry just walked in, handed me a note. It says, at 11:30 on The Skinny with Mitch Perry and Ray Roa,
Which follows our show.
Angie Nixon will be on the show.
Oh, great.
It's at 11:30 in the morning.
He beat us.
Yeah, I know. Mitch scooped us. But anyway, that's awesome, Mitch. Great job.
Yeah,
that's very exciting.
So, all right, let's jump over to some other races before we...
Mitch, ask her why she joined the DSA weeks before the primary. Ask her that. ask Angie why she joined the DSA just weeks before the primary,
A dangerous move.
and now has to disavow certain aspects of their platform.
All right. So Darrell Rousseau's seat, the Senate, what was he there, Patrick? 8 years.
8 good years.
8 good years. I know he was good to you guys. Was your nonprofit, of course. Fentress Driscoll versus Michelle Rayner. Who did you pick, Shelley?
I picked Fentress.
Uh-huh.
I picked Fentress because,
They were both reps.
they were both state reps. Fentress was term limited. Michelle Rayner was not term limited. She just wanted to jump up to the Senate. And here's the thing. Michelle Rayner's base of support was in St. Pete. Fentress's base of support was in Hillsborough. And, the district overlaps, but they had a big controversy over this vote on data centers. Michelle Rayner voted no to legislation that Fentress voted yes. The legislation that Fentress voted yes on was to regulate data centers, to make sure that we maintained home rule over different aspects of it.
That's critical.
The artificial intelligence data centers that are so controversial around the country.
And here's the thing, we have a Republican supermajority in the legislature. They're going to do what they're going to do, and we, the Democrats, have very little control over what we can do to stop them. But Fentress was able to negotiate enough protections within that legislation to regulate them, to make sure that that everything wasn't preempted by the state legislature in terms of siting, to make sure that they had to use their own water, that they had to pay for their own.
Was that approved?
Yeah.
But this doesn't matter in an election. How many voters knew any of this?
Well,
especially in her district.
I mean, you're talking a lot about it, and I agree with you. But
I didn't know it.
Is that
was news to me.
That I couldn't have told you that, and I pay a lot of attention. But I supported Fentress Driscoll because she was more places. She was everywhere.
The fight between the two, the supporters of the two of them, did come down to that because there was a mailer that went out that supported Fentress. That attacked Rayner.
I think Fentress had more ink.
There was 20 mailers that came out on a whole list of things. Everybody about who likes the Republicans more, who's more Republican.
But I think over 8 years, Fentress had more ink across the board because she was
a minority leader.
The minority leader. She was head of the Democratic Party.
Didn't sell herself here while she was representing this area. I never saw Rayner until 3 days before the election when I saw her.
For me too, I felt the same way.
I had her on my show when she was in the legislature talking about the ban on social media for teenagers,
for kids.
She supported that with Paul Renner, the Republican, when most Democrats were opposed to it.
Now, Fentress also won Pinellas County too. She won both counties. So even Rayner's home county, she didn't win it.
Lynn?
So I have a question to all of you. I want to take the drone view of this election cycle that we just finished. It just seemed really ugly and mean. There was a lot of contention amongst same parties.
Oh, you want to jump to the Salazar Suarez race?
Well, I mean,
that was about as ugly as it gets.
Yeah. Why is the first question, and is this a trend? Are we going to see more of this? Pat?
When somebody pushes you in the mud, you can't get out of the mud. You have to bring them in the mud with you. And so that's a problem. Once you start going down the road, both sides get in the mud, and they just get more muddy.
Who started it? Salazar or Suarez?
There was a push poll from Suarez campaign early
is
on.
a social media post starting it, or is a mailer starting it? Right?
I saw social media.
Is somebody saying something live starting it, or is something, or when you pay for it? So that's a problem. Is a negative if a supporter of yours says it on social media, or is it a negative when you actually spend money on it?
You're waffling. Vic, who started it?
Suarez started with a push poll early on. I was intimately involved in a campaign. It was one of these things like, would you vote for somebody if you knew he was a convicted felon, and had these sort of things.
I first heard about that, though, from Jake Hoffman, the Republican.
And then Jake jumped in.
Yeah.
You're right. Jake jumped in as well with his, and then the Suarez campaign.
I hated hate it
do all
when
those
Democrats do that to each other.
Right.
It's one thing if you're doing the partisan thing and you're going to put the gloves on, but when we start eating our own, we're in trouble.
But when we saw that the other guy got really nasty, we knew that they realized they were in trouble.
They were in trouble, right?
But
But as a matter of disclosure, Patrick Montana and Vic were
Salazar.
We're there for Salazar. All right, let's take a call from our good friend Jarvis in Tampa. Jarvis, are you there?
Hey, Jarvis, thanks for listening.
Jarvis.
Hey, this is Brother Jarvis. I couldn't resist to talk about politics, and when you called out Angie Nixon name and say, "Oh, can we get the black people out to vote?" I said, "Let me jump in this now, because that's my calling card."
Okay.
But let me tell you what happened in that race. Nobody on the panel really know what happened in that.
All right, real quick, Jarvis, go ahead.
Right. Let me tell you. So now, when you have Vittman start saying that Angie Nixon ghetto, start playing these racial tones, and oh, she's ghetto, she's this, she brought more people. What that did was bring more people to the process that would even vote. Black people voted for Angie Nixon that wouldn't even never voted. You play the race when you start jugging and playing racist cards with black people. It's a strange thing. That's what empowered them. So her victory came from Vittman's wife making those. Oh, she's ghetto. She don't know how to act. She's not civilized. She's this. She's that. And these Democrats doing this to each other. You see what I'm saying? And the black people being the base of the Democratic Party. Why should that? One more race. Jackie Coffey Leaks and Robin Lockett. What happened in that race? Jackie Coffey Leaks brought her own people. She had her family. 40% of her people that came out and voted for her was her family. She rallied her family, and her father had a great history of doing activism and political.
Yeah, but so did Robin. Robin actually had groundwork, so.
Jarvis, some people...
It's about winning.
Jarvis, some people said that was sort of the establishment, the older black establishment versus Robin, more of a newcomer rebel, rabble-rouser.
No, Florida Sentinel Bulletin endorsement also helped Jackie.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but Florida Sentinel Bulletin is part of the black establishment. Along with Reverend...
That don't matter, because at the end of the day, it's a win. A win is a win. And Jackie's going to do a good job.
Well, I was glad that it didn't get ugly. That from what I could see, at least in print and on social media, it didn't get too ugly on that race.
It didn't get ugly at all.
Yeah.
It was the fact who could look as a better candidate and get it done. If you listen to Jackie, when she commanded issues, into my state issues. Robin had a good command of local issues. But Jackie had command of state issues. So
you might be right, Jeff.
Hey, Jarvis, we love you. We appreciate you calling and listening, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, Jarvis.
All right. What do we want to talk about?
If you're just tuning in, this is Down and Dirty with John Dingfelder and friends. And we're talking politics. We're getting down and dirty.
That sounds like Fox and Friends. It's a little
weird. Wrong network.
Board of County Commissioners, any surprises like incumbent Donna Cepeda going down? Patrick?
She did well in East Hillsborough County. Han did extremely well in her school board district in South Tampa. I think she won every precinct, and her lead in South Tampa was huge. What was odd, though, was that Cepeda won day of and early voting, and Han won and had a huge lead in vote by mail.
So at the end, it was pretty close?
Cepeda won both early voting and
No. I mean the total at the end.
No, it wasn't close. It was a blowout.
Okay.
And so I noticed in several races, the vote by mail was out of line with early and day of voting. And I'm wondering, after doing this, is if there is a more sophisticated thought process of Republicans and Democrats who vote by mail because they have more time to do it. They've already thought about an election early on to actually make the request.
Interesting.
And because if you were thinking about electability, Stacey Hahn was a better shot than Donna Cepeda in the general election. If you're just voting on emotion, well, Cepeda's the incumbent, I see her sign, whatever. And then, but, on Jolly's race, on Vidman's race, Vidman did very well on early voting. Vote by mail, did very bad in the laters. Right. And I don't think it was a momentum switch. I think that people like me are thinking about, well, will the money make the difference at the end? Will the money help Jolly if he does this? That's a lot of thought process for most voters. Most voters are like, oh, it's a woman, I'm going to vote for it. Oh, it's a guy, I'm going to vote for it. This name sounds like my uncle's name, I'm going to vote for it. That's most voters out there.
Shelley Reback, Donna Cepeda was there for 4 years. She had upset who?
Mariella.
Mariella Smith.
That was devastating.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
She had 4 years to build a reputation, but I never heard her doing anything.
She was a ghost. She was a cipher. She
She's
just
pretty
did
empty.
whatever Wostall wanted to do. She voted with him, and she wasn't really an initiator of anything in terms of priorities for the commission. She was a big cipher. She really wasn't.
Made me miss Mariella all the more.
Yeah, that was a tragic.
That was.
That she.
So who's up against Han? In the general.
Malamala?
Yeah.
Manamala, yeah.
Okay.
And
Manamala.
Eileen Rodriguez, my Hispanic caucus is pushing her huge. She'd be the first true Hispanic
Eileen
woman.
Rodriguez against Wostall.
Yeah. She'd
in
be the
the
first.
Hillsborough County Commission.
Now, she has done a great job.
She worked her
Eileen
tail off.
Rodriguez.
Now, who did she upset the other day?
Cindy Stewart.
Cindy Stewart.
Here's
That
another
was surprising to me. I thought name recognition would go
Yeah,
far.
Patrick wrote about it.
Here's a trend
this
I
week.
want to also discuss. So
Patrick
you had
Montague.
Cindy Stewart lose. You had Mike Suarez lose. You had Wingate Newton lose, and we had one other in the group. There was 4 of them who were held office before, had lost a couple times. Mike Suarez trying to come back, and they failed. And so the voters seem to reject people who were trying to restart a political campaign.
Out with the old, in with the
The
new
only
one.
outlier in that was Kimberly Overman.
Right.
Overman won her primary.
But really, it looked like she was losing the early votes. Did you see that? It was
Yeah.
that
Once
was,
again, the early vote by mail.
Vote by mail.
He did well on because people were thinking about
The money.
the money.
Yeah. Right.
Democrats, if you really are in the long game here, you're trying to think, how do we beat the Republicans?
it's a chess game. Right?
Yeah, and so if you're thinking that way, McCauley was probably a better thought process, as was Vidman. If you're thinking with your heart or just with a more simpler,
I confess, I confess, I recommended Macaulay over Kimberly Overman, and I regret that. That was
Me
a
too.
mistake.
I recommended McCauley
Yeah.
also, but it was based on the
was-
money.
It was based on the money, but also the fact that I didn't think that Kimberly was in the same way that Angie Nixon was exciting the base. I didn't think that Kimberly was exciting the base. And what turned out to be the truth is that people recognize that, hey, Overman is one of us. Darren McCauley, he doesn't even live here. He's from the Orlando area.
Doesn't live in the district
Yeah,
either.
he doesn't live in the district. He parachuted in with a lot of money.
Literally,
Yeah.
he's military.
Yeah, but he's not really one of us, and people paid attention to that, and I think that's why Kimberly won.
Although he did win in Pasco County.
Yeah.
So she won Hillsborough huge. He won by
Isn't that
Pasco in a small
interesting?
amount.
Who's she up
her
against
name
next?
recognition
Bill
did
Rackus.
affect it.
Bill Rackus was,
Which is now representing exactly my home in
And
West
Seminole
Tampa.
Heights.
Did they make
Seminole
Bill
Heights.
Rackus a little more blue?
Yes.
Bill?
Yeah, a lot
Yes.
more blue. And
Yes.
when they did the whole redistricting,
They
he's
kinda
got the
screwed
tightest,
him.
bluest. He's already running TV ads nonstop on streaming cable.
Patrick, you think she's got a shot over him?
That Bill Rackus name has been around so
has.
long.
Yeah. Yep.
40
It really
40.
depends on if you can sell the fact that Bill Rackus is just a yes vote
A
on everything
placeholder.
Trump
Right.
wants.
Yeah.
This election is still about Trump, no matter what we want to think.
Right.
Right.
And so the reality is the Democrats are going to have to make all these congressmen
Right.
look like they are just not going to be their own person. They're not going to do their job. They're just going to roll over on
Puppets,
Trump.
marionettes. Yeah.
Speaking about familiar names, a familiar name across the bay, Charlie Crist, kind of did very well. He got 35% over the incumbent mayor, Ken Welch, who got 21%. The fire chief, Fire Chief Large, got 17% and Gabbard came in fourth at 17%.
I'm
Let's
surprised.
skip
I
to the
thought
end
she
and
was
just
gonna-
call Charlie mayor now. I mean, I don't think they need a second
Yeah,
election.
Patrick's already predicted it, and
Yeah, it's
today's
over
like I
with.
said.
You think it's a done deal?
How do 80% of the people vote against
Rose
the
Ferlita
sitting
thought
mayor?
it was a done deal.
80% of the people
Yeah.
voted against the sitting mayor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a horrible referendum.
Why,
on that.
Shelley?
Right.
Why?
And people want change. This is a change election.
I agree.
mean, across the board, that's Angie Nixon. That's people voting against the incumbent mayor in St. Pete. That people want change.
Right.
Lynn?
I don't know. I used to be able to read the tea leaves. Now I don't know. You know, we have these Trump voters, and I don't understand how they vote that way.
Yeah, the Crist race started getting a little ugly too. Now, it wasn't a partisan race; it was, quote, a nonpartisan race.
You
Although
know,
it was
Charlie's
between.
just likable. I mean, there's something about Charlie. I know he's been around a long time, but he's likable, and he knows it. He's done so much in his career. I agree with Patrick.
I think
it's
the
done.
lesson for the sitting mayor was when you have a hurricane, you better get pictures of you with a chainsaw cutting limbs. You better get a picture of you
Shoveling sewage.
shoveling sewage. You better make it look like you were out there fighting
That you
with your
care.
fellow citizens, because I think the criticism started in the hurricanes with him.
Yeah.
and then the race
then the
issue
race.
just ended up
The race, yeah.
nowhere, and so.
You're the mayor who lost the Rays.
Yeah.
St. Pete's never going to forgive you. Let's go to our friend Mary Jane, Seminole Heights. Mary Jane, are you still there?
Yes.
Hey, hi, hon. How are you?
I want to tell you about the first thing I saw this morning on TV.
Okay.
It's a campaign spot in Texas. My sister-in-law's been visiting from Texas. She's on top of this. Her name is Ellen Morrison. She's Rick's sister. Okay. Anyway, the first thing I saw was this Telrico commercial. It was composed by a mariachi band who perform it in Spanish.
I love it.
I
Wow.
want everybody to look at it. It's just very lively and talks about issues and shows pictures, and there's a lot of shots of the band. It's a nice, lively, positive commercial.
Positive.
It's
there's-
amazing for us to think that Texas could elect a Democratic senator.
Well, he talks like a preacher. If you listen to him, it's like quoting the
He is,
Bible.
but-
I mean,
But here's
it's
the
Texas.
thing about
Thank you, Mary
Telerico.
Jane. We love you.
About Telerico, about Angie Nixon, about Al Sayed. These are people who are talking about bringing positive change to their communities, bringing things like universal health care, like free child care, like rent freezes, things like that. These are things that are absolutely kitchen table issues that they're talking about bringing to people. And in all of these Republican races, I don't hear anything about a plan to fix the things that are wrong with people's daily lives.
They're not admitting it.
They're not. There's to fix affordability, and the state of Florida.
Gas prices really have not risen if you listen to Trump.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
economy's wonderful too, according to Trump.
I mean, in the state of Florida in particular, Republicans have been in complete and total charge for 27 years,
30.
close to 30 years.
30 years.
And they're out there saying, we need to fix Florida. I mean, you're
broke it.
responsible. You
You-
broke it.
you broke
You're
it.
responsible for it. It's insane.
Hey, listen.
But the Democrats are actually talking about the things they want to do that will make people's lives better. And that's why I think it's a change election.
And I have
Listen,
my
we are
brother lives
lighting
in
up the
Dallas.
board. Go ahead, Vic.
My brother lives in Dallas, and he told me he's surrounded by red. I mean, Texas is very red.
Sure.
And for the first time in 15 years that he's been there, he finally says, "You guys might have a chance this time." He told me.
But
so
he's gone Republican since he went out there, didn't he?
no, he's still a Democrat, but
Oh,
he
that's
has to,
good.
he has to be very quiet about it.
Okay. George in Davenport wants to talk about the DSA. Good morning, George.
Thanks for listening.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Good. What's up?
I wanted to bring up the fact about the DSA. If we look back at history, FDR was the first DSA president we had.
There you
Right,
go.
right.
There you go.
He brought us Social Security. He got us out of the Depression. He brought us Social Security, all the other social benefits to the society. And guess what happened World War II? We had a very strong middle class. Today, the Republican Party wants to take down the middle class.
That's right.
All these programs, and why? Because they want to keep their corporate donors going, and the MAGAs don't understand what's going on. I understand how they are. I feel bad for them, but one day they'll get around. But I think we need to follow, and one thing the Democratic Party needs very strongly and very much today, be together, unified.
Be together.
Yeah,
I like that.
regardless of your DSA or or if you're in the middle of the road or you're progressive. It doesn't matter.
All right, well, don't we say we're a big tent? George, thanks for calling. Thanks for
I
listening.
love that, George. Be
Patrick,
together. That's good.
Davenport, wasn't that up your way where you grew up?
Davenport? Davenport is over in Polk, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Polk County.
Further beyond where you grew up.
Yeah. Haven't you been around for a while, Chuck?
I thought
let him out of the house occasionally.
Listen,
man. Come
listen,
on, let him drive around. See what's
Listen,
going on.
I was thinking about your chicken background.
Yeah, no, that's Antioch.
That's
Antioch. There you
Antioch.
go. I'm sorry, George. Okay, DSA, Big Tent. Anybody?
Well, I mean, I think we have to be the big tent. I mean, we are the big tent. What we need to do, though, is, and I think this is already happening, we need to emphasize what we are unified about and not be back into this whole identity politics thing.
And
I think that was too far.
And I have a problem, and I'm Jewish too, like you, Shelley, but I have a problem with the DSA's position on Israel. It's not that I'm not pro Netanyahu by any means. But I'm pro Israel, and I feel I don't feel good about the DSA's position. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to vote against a candidate.
But
just because
I want to
DSA.
respond to that because I've been doing this all over social media. People throw up this, what I consider to be a straw man about the DSA's position about Israel when they accuse the DSA of taking the position that Israel should not exist. In those words, that Israel should not exist. That is not necessary. That is not the definition of their position. That is not where they're coming from. Where they're coming from is that Israel should not exist in the way it currently exists, which is an apartheid country that is expansionist, Kahanist, that is supporting vigilantes in the West Bank to take over Palestinian lands and throw out the people who live there, so that there is absolutely no hope of any two-state solution because there's no land left for a second state. The point is simply that Israel should not exist as it is behaving today. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist as a country, but the question is whether it should continue along the lines that it is behaving toward Palestinians today. That's the difference. And people, they throw out these words and they don't understand what is behind them.
That's a great show, Johnny. We need to do that.
Well,
we have to do it.
Well, and what you see, the argument between Democrats is happening also is that people are insisting on you using certain words. You have to use the words. If you don't use this word, it's the wrong thing. So you have to label everything in certain ways. And so the litmus test amongst Democrats has to be lowered down. Like I said, it has to be where, if we agree on 95% of the stuff, that's okay.
Right.
We don't have to agree. And so,
but we have to agree to disagree.
Originally, when we started to get the progressive movement, I never had a disagreement with the progressive on the issue, but somehow they didn't seem to like me because I wasn't a progressive.
Right.
And that's an odd position to be in.
They bashed me.
If we're voting on everything together, why do you just not like me because I've been around longer than you?
Right. It's that generational thing, too. We didn't get it right.
Sure.
I wonder, looking back.
I mean, even Salazar had to admit he liked the old guys in the room because he wouldn't have won the election without them, during his concession speech.
My point is,
victory speech.
Looking back, did we do that to our parents or to our grandparents? The nanny, boo-boo, you didn't do it right. Maybe in the 60s we did. Maybe we said we can do it better. And I think that's what we're hearing now, and it kind of chaps our butt.
Oh, that's how you ended up with Nixon.
That's true.
I didn't.
Well, yeah.
All right, let's take another call. We got Peter in Tarpon Springs who's been waiting a while.
Hey, Peter.
Peter wants to talk a little bit about the DSA, I think.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's up?
Thanks for taking my call.
For sure.
And my thing that I want to talk about is the way the Republicans characterize the Democratic Socialists. Now, the way I combat it with people that I run into is this. We are already a socialist society. We don't label it that. We call it a democratic republic, but you have to explain it in terms. If you live in a city or county, we all band together to pay taxes, which cover our roads, our parks, our police, our fire, our water, our sewers, all these things that we provide for. Otherwise, you'd have to have a credit card on file with the fire department, and you call them up and say, I need help, and they say, well, let me pull you up, and they charge you for the visit. So we already live in a socialist society with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. So the way we have to break it off is to explain, people forgot their civics lessons, but actually what the Republicans are doing themselves are closer to communism, where it's one-party rule, and then they're buying things up in the country as far as owning things of manufacturing and such.
So Peter, if this ballot initiative wins, eliminating property tax or reducing property tax tremendously, a lot of local governments might have to shift over to, fees, tremendous fees and that sort of thing, pay for your fire truck to show up. Exactly what you're talking about. Listen, Peter, we appreciate your call. We gotta run. We got other calls. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening, hon.
Yeah, the problem is in politics, there's an old saying, we've all heard it, when you're explaining, you're losing. If you have to, because a perfect example was yesterday morning on Morning Joe. Angie was right on the air. And if you look at the DSA platform, it's pretty crazy. Abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court, defund the police, which has been an enigma to the Democratic Party.
They asked her about that.
And they asked her all those questions, and she had to say, no, I'm for the police, but, and then she says, I think we should, do some reforms to the police. Or, no, I don't want to abolish ICE. I don't want to abolish the Senate.
Well, no, not ICE. No, she said she doesn't believe in open borders.
Right, that was, you're right. That's the question about open borders.
She doesn't believe in open borders, and she was asked, do you support abolishing prisons? And she said, no, but I support abolishing private prisons because it's corrupt.
Right. The problem with that in politics is that you're feeding into the Republican narrative that they're going to bang you over the head with during the election, and we have to just overcome that.
That's why she's everywhere, including on WMNF at 11 o'clock.
11:30.
11:30 on the Skinny. She's everywhere to make her position clear because it is. She doesn't accept the entire platform of the DSA.
It's really important. We're going to take another call. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, this is John Dingfelder. Down and Dirty is the show. My co-host is Lynn Marvin Dingfelder. We've got Vic DeMaio, who's a regular. Shelley Reback, we're thrilled to have you back with us.
Yay.
And Patrick Montega, also a regular. And I know we're having a good discussion. Let's take Joel down in Venice. I think that's Venice, Florida. Joel, you're on there.
Good morning. Thank you for the program. Somebody was talking about reading the tea leaves.
Yep.
And I believe Mr. Trump, president, whatever he is, anyway, all he wants to do is create enough chaos so he's still president through the election. He has to keep Epstein out of it a little bit. But anyway, create enough chaos, Democrats win. Trump declares the election rigged. The people take to the streets. Trump declares martial law and becomes president for life.
Oy.
I think that's his goal.
Yeah,
Honey, do we have our passports?
Everything he does, it's like he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he gets. He doesn't care about anything because he doesn't want. He needs the people to riot so he can declare martial law or whatever.
Yeah, he's got those Trump 2028 hats sitting on his desk. That's pretty scary. All right, Joel, thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you.
Jane Carville came up with an interesting thing. He says that on I think his blog show or whatever, he said that if the Democrats take over the House or the Senate or one or the other, that he will. I don't think this is going to happen. That Trump will resign. He'll be so frustrated and so mad that he's so out of control that he couldn't take the pressure and he's just going to quit and let. But it will be interesting.
Well, we don't want Vance in there either because if Vance ran,
just be a younger version.
Yeah.
A younger version.
So. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We have a shot.
Do we have a shot? Do we have a shot in November?
Kathy Castor, on all the polls I've seen so far, Kathy Castor is way ahead because she's been around. She dominates the media in this market because the media's in Tampa and she's a Tampa congressperson. So
and who's her opponent?
She's like 70 to 20. Well, right
Mike
now,
Beltram.
Mike Beltram.
And he has money.
Who is he? What's with
He's
him?
running commercials constantly as MAGA Mike Beltran.
MAGA.
And MAGA, that's his
MAGA Mike.
MAGA
I
Mike
hope
Beltran.
that Castor doesn't believe she's ahead.
Yeah.
Because I think this race is going to
Scary.
be a lot tougher than she thinks. It's a lot of East Hillsborough County.
It changed the district.
Beltram is a hard worker.
Yeah.
You go out there, his signs everywhere. She doesn't have a single sign out there, and Kathy has to start campaigning vigorously,
This
and
is
she
probably
hasn't
her first,
had
right.
to campaign
in 20
vigorously
years.
in such
In
a long
20
time
years.
that I don't know if she knows what campaigning vigorously is.
Right.
I haven't talked to Kathy Castor in 3 years.
And you are the editor in chief.
I'm a newspaper. I haven't talked to her in 3 years.
La Gazzetta.
Yeah, I've talked to her. I've run into her, but as far as call me or I call you, it just hasn't happened.
Kathy,
and
Kathy
also,
call Patrick.
I think
I've talked to Mike Beltram 3 times, and he sent me some ads.
Yeah, and I think that because as I said before, this is a change election, I'm a little worried about Kathy Castor, too. We've seen this, as Patrick pointed out, a number of incumbents who lost, a number of people trying to get back into politics who lost, who were in politics before. I mean, I truly believe that this is a major change election and that people are out for change.
Lynn and I, maybe I shouldn't speak for you, Lynn.
Don't speak for
We've
me.
been a little, I've been a little disappointed that Kathy hasn't been more of a fighter, a firebrand, more like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who, by the way, we should talk about for a second.
Debbie
On the
won.
other side of the state, down in Fort Lauderdale, down that way, I think she surprised people and won that election very handily.
And she had to
I'll
change
give you
seats.
I'll give you a perfect example to back up Shelley here. As an example, Senator Bill Nelson. Senator Nelson, for
He was great.
He was a good person,
but
he had this like Kathy.
Complacent?
Sometimes
Yeah.
complacent.
He's a nice guy. Too nice.
Try getting him on the phone. Try
Yeah.
to get him to come to your events. They had this kind of aloof rose garden mentality.
Yeah,
and now when he was in trouble at the end, man, I couldn't get rid of him. He
Not
was
only that, but I remember during the Obama election when he was also running. No, when he already he was not running, and he had $17 million left in his war chest.
Yeah.
Bill Nelson.
Bill
And I
Nelson.
saw him at an event, and I went up to him. I'm like, why aren't you giving that,
To Democrats.
to help them in the election?
Which is legal, by the way, if you're
Yes,
listening.
Yes.
and he held on to that money, and then he lost his next election. But the fact is, Kathy's got a lot of money that she built up over the years. That she needs to put it out there. She needs to work it the way Angie is working it. She needs to get out there at these events, at these public events, and not just
Does
have
she have the
fundraiser.
fire in the belly? Because
Yeah,
I
not just have
love Kathy as a
fundraiser
person.
at Mise en Place, with rich South Tampa people. She needs to be out there in East Hillsborough, for example.
Should be at this radio station making the circuit. I mean,
Right.
It's
Let's get her on, Johnny.
It's about hustle, and you look at Luis Salazar. How did he beat this incumbent guy? He was outspent
He just
two.
never
He was
stopped.
outspent 2-1. But he.
I hope he's sleeping now. Is
No,
that
we got to start. No, we won't let them. But that's why he's not here today videoing us today like he normally does. So the thing is, you got to work Luis Salazar because he personally knocked on every. Usually when you do a whole district, you
I
do
love
the top
grassroots.
10.
There's nothing better than grassroots
You cannot
campaigning.
beat grassroots, and grassroots is a key. And Suarez
grassroots and money and a lot of help and some PACs jumping in and a whole lot of things.
It was a combination.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that grassroots is very important, but by itself, just like with Nixon's not going to be able to talk to enough voters. She's going to have some money to convey a great message to people.
Use Angie. Don't use Nixon.
Yeah, that's
use
right.
Angie.
Nixon.
Right.
Angie.
Right.
All of her branding and everything
about
is
Angie.
Angie.
Right.
So we need to use
Nixon's
Angie.
the one.
Nixon gets people's hackles out.
Well, in today's
can't.
world, I don't know how many Gen X even knows what that name is.
No, it's been a long time.
Hey, maybe she'll
Ouch.
pick up some Republican votes.
She might.
Some old Republican votes.
Right.
Nixon's back.
But that is, she has been
Gonna have
very-
me to kick around
She
again.
has been very disciplined in her messaging, in her branding. She's out there every day wearing, Planned Parenthood pink, Barbie pink.
You say
Barbie
that.
pink, I love
As
it.
far as messaging and branding, I received nothing from her.
It's a lot of
as
social
a voter,
media.
I received nothing. I
She
saw
didn't have
none
the
of it.
money,
She
Pat.
didn't have the money.
I understand, but I
But
saw
social
nothing from
media-
Vindman either, who did have the money.
That's true.
I got not a single mailer. I didn't see a single TV
Yeah,
commercial.
yeah.
I didn't hear a single radio.
All right, we're going to take at least one more call. Stephen in St. Pete have been holding a little bit. Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for listening. What's up?
I was going to mention, the reality that we need to come to is the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the Blue Dog Reagan Party. Let's talk honest and admit it, okay?
Say again, the Blue Dog what?
The moderate.
Blue Dog Reagan, Ronald Reagan Party.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you have to go back to LBJ until you had serious legislation that was passed for working people, for women, for seniors, for children, for minorities.
Well,
No, we had that with
Obamacare.
And with Clinton, but a lot with
All
Obama.
right, well, Obamacare was a Republican idea written by Owen Hatch and Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, but Obama
And
passed
it was
it, so you
And
got to
Mitt
give him a
Romney
little
used it
credit.
in Massachusetts.
But go ahead, Stephen. What's your question?
But we still have 1 million people that are filing bankruptcy because they can't go to a doctor or a dentist. Okay, so Obamacare. But Obama, and let's be honest with ourselves, Obama and Hillary Clinton destroyed the only progressive candidate that thought like FDR, that thought like JFK, that thought like LBJ, was Bernie Sanders. And so when you vote today, you're voting for two parties that are ruled by Reaganism. That's my point.
Well, let's be honest. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat.
All right, thank you,
He's
Steve.
an
Thanks for
independent.
listening.
Bernie's not a Democrat. He's technically an independent, so he doesn't. He uses the Democratic Party when he runs, but he goes back to being independent. So
But when he ran, he was a Democrat. When he ran for president.
because he flips his registration back and forth to do that. But the problem is, the progressives are a big part of the Democratic Party, always have been, but they're not the majority. It's that silent middle, that moderates, that middle of the road people. They're the ones that really make the difference in almost every election. Those are the ones we all kind of figure
They're
out.
also the one you can depend on no matter who the candidate is.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
that's a problem. When the Republicans just will vote for Republican at the end of the day, even if they have some disagreements.
Right.
We have parts of our party who decide to stay home because they're mad at another part of the
So,
party.
so we haven't talked about independents really, and they're the ones who
They're the key.
typically make
The
or
key.
break the general election.
They're the key.
So what are they going to do? And when they're looking at David Jolly,
And does the DSA scare them?
I have to say, it's a change election. And I think independents want change as much as anybody. And I think that, they're facing these issues of affordability, gas prices, lack of being able to get health care, housing
affordable housing.
Pocketbook
is
issues,
insane.
sure.
Pocketbook issues, like
Sure.
in the old Clinton days, it's the economy, stupid, But it's personal economy, it's family economy, it's kitchen table issues. And I think the independents are as concerned about those as anybody, and they want change.
But who are they going to blame?
Patrick
Right.
Montega, I forgot to plug La Gazzetta, and I'm guilty.
It's out now. It's on the streets.
Yeah, I wrote about the election this week, and but part of the issue is, I think we all understand the issue, and I think independents and Democrats and Republicans understand the issue. The problem is, who do they blame?
Right.
And so you have a lot of Republicans who don't have a lot of money in their lives, they're hurting, but they're still blaming the Democrats.
Are they voting for or are they voting against?
Sometimes you're just voting for the team. And if you're on Team Republican, you're going for the team no matter how bad the team is. Independents, of course, have no team. And so you think they're swinging, but it appears that most independents don't swing back and forth. Most of them have a way they lean, and they lean
stick
that
with that.
way.
Right.
And so the reality is that can Democrats put the blame, which should squarely be, if you don't like what's going on in the state at the moment, it's a Republican problem. If you don't like what's going on in this country in the moment, it's a Republican problem. And so you need to vote for a Democrat if you want a change, because they're not going to change.
Well,
what's
the
what's
key here is Donald J. Trump. He's at 30%. We got to hang that noose on everybody who's got an R by his name. That's going to be the key to this election.
What's going to be interesting is David Jolly could win, and then he'd have a Senate and a Florida House and a Florida Senate that's clearly going to be Republican.
You got to start somewhere.
No, but that's going to. I mean, that's really interesting.
Then we would be in balance, at least,
Right.
to some degree.
Right.
The reality
That's
is
the way
that,
it's supposed to be.
that we used to have a lot of Republicans who would vote for a Republican president. They were okay with Democratic Congress. You had people wanted that balance you used to have, but nowadays people don't seem to like it. But if you had a Democratic Congress, Donald Trump's danger would be a lot less.
Right.
Right.
And Jolly can have the cabinet. And the Republicans have given so much power to the cabinet that, that would be helpful.
All right. Well, you've been listening to Down and Dirty.
Great show.
John Dingfelder, Lynn Marvin Dingfelder, Vic DeMaio, Shelley Reback, and Patrick Montega of La Gazzetta. Don't forget to tune into The Skinny next hour. And at 11:30, they've got Angie Nixon on, which will be great. We're all going to be listening. Also, don't forget that I think in September, we've got fundraising drive.
Oh, and also Creative Loafing. If you want to give us a vote, we're going to ask for your vote
Give us a vote.
Yes.
for what is it?
Best show.
Best radio show.
Best radio
That'd
show.
be awesome if you can.
And
go
we're up
along
against
with that.
Bubba the Love Sponge, so we really need
God
we
help
really
us.
need your vote.
Skip, thank you. Thanks, Anthony on the
Anthony,
phones.
thanks for answering
Thanks
the
to our
phones.
guests. You guys are great. Love being with you.
Yeah.
And hope you enjoyed the show, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah, welcome
Shelley,
back.
Happy to
thank
be
you.
back.
Shelley, we might get you back for fundraising.
She's good.
I'm
All right.
back for Harrison.
We appreciate it.
WMNF Tampa.